This is TWiT.
Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, as he's wont to do, just spilled all this exciting Apple Home robot Siri stuff. And I was like, oh, look, I want to talk about this. This is exciting for me. This is, very much in my space. But basically, just to sort of summarize, it's a very long article, lots and lots of things to dive into. But I think probably there's three things that I'm most excited about. The first is a lot more juicy detail on the new tabletop robot that Apple has been rumored to have been working on for a while. It's now got a potential date, which is exciting, 2027, I think. So it's not soon. But it's going to, what really struck me about this, so the way he describes it says that the new tabletop robot resembles an iPad mounted on a movable limb that can swivel and reposition itself to follow users in a room. Like a human head, it can turn toward a person who is speaking or summoning it, and even seek to draw the attention of someone not facing it. So this is going to be, sounds like a very sort of interactive device. They're saying it's going to be, a key function will be FaceTime calls, video conferencing, the display will shift. And that's something we've already seen with Echo Show devices. They have a shifting display. But it's the kind of interesting part here is that it's going to have a personality. They say the quote is, the tabletop robot will serve as a virtual companion. It could even interrupt conversations between friends about dinner plans and suggest nearby restaurants or relevant recipes. Really doesn't sound like
interrupt
something I would
me?
want.
That sounds like a great idea. I love
but again,
that.
That's the kind of this is a personality in your home, not just a tool, which is something I have very mixed feelings about. But they're also going to have it be, that there was a comment in there that it may look a little bit like a sort of animated Clippy. They were one of the things they were talking about using was the Finder icon as a little face. So I love the idea of Apple using a Clippy style. This just feels like a complete circle here, a Clippy style robot. But all of this obviously is rumor. None of it's been fully confirmed. And that is very much in the future. But there was more reporting here about the actual smart display that we've heard more about recently coming next spring, getting a much more sort of definitive timeline. And all of this is going to be powered by this new LLM Siri. And one of the key kind of nuggets in this story was that Apple, as Amazon had to do, is sort of stripping away the old Siri and building a whole new Siri. And this sort of has been the theme we've started to see with the transition from the command and control voice assistant to the LLM powered generative AI voice assistant. And that kind of goes towards this idea of having a more human-like companion robot in your home, which, again, I have thoughts on. But just before we get to any of thoughts, the other thing that came out of this is more information about potential Apple smart home products outside of smart displays, more details about cameras and potential video doorbell, which was exciting. And also a sort of a hint that maybe Apple may be developing a home security system. Gurman writes that the security system, which could include the cameras, when people say a security system, they don't necessarily mean a keypad and contact sensors on the door, but the security system will be able to automate household functions. So it would actually also act like sensors. So you'd be using the camera and infrared sensors, he says, to sort of help determine who's in the house and what's happening. He did say that these cameras will be battery powered, which I thought was very interesting because that's not normally something you would use inside a home. Saying that they could last from several months to a year on a single charge, which I'm like, nope. There are no battery powered cameras that do that. So I'd be very interested to see if they manage that.
If if the camera doesn't turn on, then it'll last a year.
Absolutely not helpful. And then it'll also have facial recognition. So again, they'd be able to kind of respond to who's in the home, and also as a security system, if someone who shouldn't be in the home is in the home. So a lot of sort of really interesting things. There was also a lot of detail about new software, Home OS type not Home OS. It was actually a new operating system that's going to come to these robot smart displays called Charismatic, and that it would actually adapt based on who is looking at it, which means it will be potentially one of the first Apple products that's multi-user.
Truly multi-user, yeah.
Truly multi-user. I mean, obviously HomePods have that a little bit, but so that's sort of a really brief summary. You highly recommend people reading the whole thing if you have the Bloomberg subscription or can find your way around the paywall, because there's a lot of juicy details, and it was very exciting. What grabbed you, Mikah?
Well, the one thing that you talk about there is the change, right, in interaction based on the user. Yeah. And it made me kind of think about how my significant other, I'm not sure what your experience is, but mine is particularly allergic to when technology is trying to be clever. And it's sort of like, don't do that. Just do what I need you to do. Yeah. Whereas I find some of that quirkiness kind of adorable. A great example of this is just the other day. I was in the kitchen, I think cooking. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. But I said to the HomePod Mini that was in the kitchen, turn the volume to 100, because if you've had a HomePod Mini, you know they're not very loud. And so I said, turn the volume to 100, and it responded. It said, "Are you sure? That's pretty loud." And I said, "Yes." And I had a little chuckle at that, as you just did. But when I explained that to my significant other, he was sort of put off by the idea that it would, ask that instead of just doing what I asked it to do. So I had this thought of, when I walk up to this thing, it's, moving its head back and forth. It's sort of, nodding along or whatever and following me. And then if he were to walk in the room, the thing would just go into this mode of just only doing what it's told to do. Yeah, whatever you say. And how different that could be. Because, I think that kind of thing can be delightful, and I enjoy that aspect of it. But I do wonder, the one thing that kind of made me go, I made all of those noises, was the idea that it would cut in to a conversation I'm having.
That was the first thing I picked up. I'm like, interrupt? I don't want a device to interrupt me. I want, when I say, what do you think, maybe S or A,
if
do
I
you
bring
have
you
any
in,
suggestions? But don't interrupt me. I mean, to be fair, that did look like that was kind of the context that the reporter added, rather than like a direct quote from someone. But that just stuck me, because when you have any kind of a technology device in your home that interrupts you, like Amazon's A does that a lot by mistake, because it thinks it hears its wake word, and it's so frustrating. It's like, shush.
Yeah. You be quiet. I'm not talking to you. I think is that the problem with that too, that I have seen, is people are already convinced, as we've talked about before, that their devices are constantly listening to them. Yeah. So the idea that one would interrupt to say,
means they are listening.
They are listening. Oh, I hear that right now you're talking about going to a restaurant. So let me, but then I think maybe the people who have that distaste or dislike would not have this in their home in the first place. This would, but I mean, who is it for then, if anecdotally speaking, but largely speaking in the anecdotal situations, people who I see who are not us, these tech enthusiasts, don't seem to like that. So it does make me wonder, is it just a matter of the right company doing it, which I think is what some would argue, particularly Apple enthusiasts would argue.
Versus Amazon.
Or is it that this would be a product for people who are super into this in the first place? I don't know, I don't know the customer base of the HomePod Mini, for example. I know, I would imagine that a lot more people have Apple TVs than have HomePod Minis, but I could be wrong about that. And so it makes me, and the HomePod, I'm using the HomePod Mini as an example because it is sort of what Apple offers as a smart home, quote unquote, product, even though it's not really, but it does have the little humidity and temperature sensor built into it. And it does serve as, the device for helping communicate with your other smart home stuff. Interesting.
I think it's going to be really down to what that functionality it can offer is. Like, I don't think interrupting me to tell me I might want to go to this restaurant is good function. But if it's going to interrupt me to say, you left your garage door open, would you like me to shut it? Or if it can have context from around the rest of the home, and be able to do helpful, useful things, be able to help manage your home. I mean, we've talked about the idea of these robots being kind of the brain of your home. Robot is a loose term because this isn't like a Rosie that's going to roam around your home. It's just sort of sitting on a tabletop. It's just the next step up from a smart speaker, having more personality and some mobility. I mean, in fact, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago. Apple had released a sort of a white paper about tabletop robot that looks like the Pixar lamp.
Yes.
And I think that obviously seems to be what they've connected to here. I think there is a fine line between personality, charm and endearing, and annoyance. And that is going to have to be, that fine line is really ruled by functionality. If you're doing something useful and productive for me, I'm going to put up with that a little more, even if I'm like your spouse and don't like it. Mine is the same. Like, we're testing Alexa Plus at the moment, and whenever you ask it things that you used to ask it to do, it now adds a little kicky line at the end all the time, and everyone in my house is like, "Woo!"
Why is it doing that?
It's like when I ask what the weather is, it'll tell me, and then it'll say, "Sounds like it's going to be a good one today."
Oh boy, yeah, and we've gotten used to the other way of it doing things too, and so sometimes I think it might be just a matter of adapting to a change and
we'll need to be able to dial up and down the personality, I think, based on what you like.
Yeah. I think that works. There's a weather app, Carrot Weather, and it has different personality modes that you can choose for it. And I think that, that was something that I always found delightful about it, where you could say, I really just want to know the weather. Don't do any clever messages or anything like that. Or I want you to say some wild stuff when you're talking about the weather, and that's good too. But it's your choice. And maybe that's the aspect of it that's important, is the person gets to make a choice on how they have theirs set up. Yeah.
And, choice if they want a kind of AI robot companion in their home, or if they just want something that's going to set a timer and play music. Because I think you still, the utility is the important part. I mean, there's a lot of interesting work being done, I think, on that companion side. And I think we'll see a lot of that coming in the future, but I feel like there isn't the demand for it yet. So I think once it's out there, the reaction will be interesting to sort of see whether people really enjoy this and whether it brings more to their life, especially people that live alone. I know people that use Amazon's A as a companion already, because it is, the loneliness is a real thing.
Yes.
But whether artificial intelligence is the solution to that sort of gets into a real psychological. What's the word for society?
Oh goodness, which one?
You know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
Something.
It is a big question,
societal question for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, let us take a quick break. A reminder again to definitely go and check out that Bloomberg article, as it has loads more detail and interesting aspects. It's one of Gurman's longer pieces, and is filled with lots of good stuff. But we'll take a quick break and come back.
Sociology, that's what I was trying to say. Sorry.
Sociology. There we go.
Sorry.
There's
it came
the
to
word.
me eventually.
We got around to it. Your A said, I heard you were talking, and I think the word you're looking for is
here's the word you need. Okay, I can deal with that. Thank you. You're helpful. No, it's not.
You enjoying this tiny taste of Tech News Weekly? I'm happy to hear it. You can check out the full show on our website, twit.tv/TNW, or you can watch it right here on YouTube. Just click the link below.